working mom. And she goes, it can be incredibly overwhelming. Oh my gosh, I just need a break. And then we find out she's had a full-time nanny for 5 years who takes the kids to school.
For years, Meghan Markle has ruled her public image like a Hollywood director calling the shots on set. Every camera angle, every headline, every so-called candid photo, all carefully crafted like a scene straight from her royal movie. But when those studio lights go off and the glossy lens stops rolling, what really happens behind those guarded gates? According to one woman, someone who was there, who saw it, heard it, lived it,
a nanny nightmare for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry.
The fairy tale wasn't the glittering story we were told. This isn't just another royal rumor. This is the voice Meghan never wanted the world to hear. The nanny who claims that working inside the Sussex home felt less like caring for children and more like surviving inside a beautifully staged illusion. Another nanny nightmare for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. She says the rules were bizarre, the air always tense, and those cozy family moments, more rehearsed than real. Behind Meghan's glittering speeches about compassion and authenticity, this insider paints a darker portrait. One of control, secrecy, and a chilling question no PR team can spin away. If the Sussex family life was truly so perfect, then why did the people living inside those walls feel like outsiders looking in?
The couple have been relying on for some time.
And just when you think you've heard it all, wait until you hear what she says about Archie and Lilibet. Because that's where the story turns from strange to utterly shocking. The nanny that the couple had been relying on for some time wanted out before she ever set foot inside that glittering mansion. The job posting itself made her pause. It didn't read like a royal employment ad. It read like a casting call. Every word was specific, almost surgical. Meghan, she was told, wanted a caregiver who was discreet, adaptable, and not distracting.
Prince Harry had got through 3 nannies in just 6 weeks, and that's because working for this couple is incredibly difficult.
Translation: competent, but never the center of attention. Rumors among staff whispered that Meghan didn't want anyone in her home who could outshine her own brand. Looks, social presence, even relationship status. Everything was scrutinized. All done with a smile that never quite reached those brown eyes. A nanny with her own children? Too complicated. Someone in a relationship? Too risky. The message was clear. Your life must orbit around Meghan's. The role wasn't just about professionalism. It was about devotion.
He creates a list of potential hires. You meet with that nanny. Then you have to meet with another one of Meghan's assistants. These are 2 separate auditions. Then you sign an NDA, which grants you access to Harry and Meghan. So this is the 3rd interview.
Those calls for flexibility weren't about helping with bedtimes or playdates. They were about loyalty, 24/7 availability, and 0 privacy. What should have been a warm family home felt more like a private institution. One where a single wrong word could end everything. Even stranger, the children's access was strictly on Meghan's terms. No clear hours, no casual affection, no natural bonding, just order, silence, and precision. The nanny nearly walked away until curiosity won. Because beneath all those polished rules, one line made her heart skip. All activities within the residence are subject to observation. She had no idea how literal that warning was. When she finally arrived at the Sussex estate, expecting a typical interview, she instead found herself in an audition under surveillance.
Has specifically been instructed to hide Harry and Meghan's identity from the applicant. They just want to make sure you're comfortable working with Meghan because of her reputation.
From the moment she walked through those oversized doors, something felt off. The home was picture-perfect, immaculate, but unnaturally quiet. Like a museum posing as a home. She was told to act naturally, to tend to the environment as if it were a trial day. What no one mentioned? Every movement was being recorded. Hidden cameras tracked her steps, how she walked, smiled, even breathed. Later, she would learn this was Meghan's own method of casting her staff. Too confident, unmanageable, too quiet, not engaging enough. It wasn't just about finding a nanny. It was about finding someone who could blend into her curated world without leaving a shadow. When the formal interview finally came, Meghan's questions felt more like psychological tests than childcare queries. "How do you handle being corrected?" she asked. "How do you respond when people misinterpret your intentions?" Subtle questions, but revealing. This job was about emotional obedience, not just skill. By the end of that first day, the nanny realized she hadn't met a family. She'd walked onto a production set.
So hard. Is she really? Or is she just saying she is?
Well, according to their tax documents, they work 1 hour.
And like every production, there was only one person with final cut approval. From the outside, the Sussexes appeared united, a royal couple forging their own path. But inside those walls, quiet disagreements hinted at a much deeper divide. Harry, the prince raised in centuries of protocol, believed his children deserved the same structure he'd grown up with. He wanted a Norland nanny, classically trained, discreet, loyal to royal tradition to him. That meant stability, a touch of his mother's warmth, and the formality he understood. But Meghan saw things very differently. She wanted modern California. Modern, relaxed, stylish, socially aware, no uniforms, no stiffness. Their clash was never about the kids. She tried to tell herself they might just be staying elsewhere for privacy. After all, this was the world's most photographed couple. But even on so-called family days when relatives were rumored to visit the house, everything stayed eerily silent. Meals were cooked yet untouched. Playrooms were locked. Cribs perfectly made, never used. The silence started to feel heavier than sound itself. Staff moved like ghosts, careful, quiet, always aware of the invisible eyes watching them. Cameras in every corner. The nanny once caught another worker whispering, "Everything here is managed, even what we're supposed to believe." The illusion was breathtaking from the outside. Sunshine, palm trees, perfection. But inside, she felt like an extra on a set where the real story had long been edited out. Her growing unease turned into conviction. This home had children in its story, but not in its reality. Then came the Netflix documentary. When it premiered, the nanny sat down like everyone else, popcorn in hand. But what she saw made her skin crawl. The cozy living room, different furniture. The view from the window faced another direction. Even the sunlight didn't match what she remembered. "That wasn't our house," she whispered to a former coworker, "at least not the one we worked in." Scenes flashed across the screen. Meghan cuddling Archie, Harry laughing in a golden garden, soft music. Golden light, camera magic. To the public, it looked perfect. To the nanny, it looked produced. Too neat, too cinematic, like a perfume commercial pretending to be a family memory. She paused the screen on one frame, Meghan on the floor surrounded by toys. To the world, it looked intimate. To the nanny, it looked staged. The layout behind her didn't match the actual nursery. Even the sunlight angles were wrong. The home that promised peace had turned into a stage built on fear and secrecy. And behind those picture-perfect hedges, trust had become the rarest luxury of all. Then came the most unsettling pattern of all. Every time a camera crew or photographer was due to arrive, the entire atmosphere shifted. Overnight rooms that had been untouched for weeks suddenly bloomed with fresh flowers, toys perfectly placed, blankets folded. Family photos appeared out of nowhere. It wasn't lived in, it was dressed. On one particular morning, Meghan's team rushed around prepping for a private family shoot. The children were supposedly present, yet the house was silent. No giggles, no footsteps upstairs, just stillness. When the photographers finally entered, Meghan descended the stairs, radiant, glowing, camera ready. Every movement perfectly timed. She smiled down tenderly, then turned toward the lens just so. A practiced angle that made the nanny's stomach twist to outsiders. It was motherly love. To the people inside, it was marketing. Later, when the famous chicken coop photos surfaced, Meghan in jeans, Harry laughing, kids in tow feeding hens, the staff stared in disbelief. None of them remembered that day ever happening. The setting looked similar, but the children? Not the same. The conclusion was heartbreaking. Those moments weren't captured, they were constructed. Every photograph, every smile, every frame crafted to tell a story the world wanted to believe. And as the nanny scrolled through glowing headlines praising Meghan's authentic family life, she felt a chill crawl up her spine. Because behind those perfect pictures, reality had long been cropped out. In the end, the nanny's story isn't one of revenge. It's one of exhaustion, heartbreak, and truth. Years inside a home where reality was replaced by narrative, where smiles were rehearsed, where compassion was brand strategy. She finally stepped out of that shadow, not for fame, not for money, but for peace. Her words may never appear in glossy interviews or Netflix specials, but they linger, raw, painful, and impossible to ignore. What she described wasn't hatred, it was heartbreak, a quiet witnessing of how authenticity can vanish behind the flash of a camera. For all the wealth, glamour, and privacy, the most haunting sound inside that mansion wasn't fighting, it was silence. And maybe that's the real revelation here. Sometimes the stories we're shown aren't meant to inform us, they're meant to protect the people who wrote them. So if this story made you question what's real and what's rehearsed, you won't want to miss what came before it. Because in our previous investigation, the one where Harry was left in shock after Sarah Ferguson exposed Meghan's yacht days with Prince Andrew, the puzzle pieces of Meghan's carefully built past began to fall into place before you go. Make sure you catch it only on Fame Unplugged, where the truth behind the headlines is always just one story away.